Updates. We're doing updates. Update time. But look at the majesty of the bracket. Look at it. Soak it in, everyone. That Phillips head. Mwah. The bracket's coming along well. You can see it's mounted in here. We have a little support that comes up here, ties in this top bracket here. This top bracket needs to attach to here, which is why we have this little guy here. He's going to get put in, ground down, and we're going to make this whole thing. I don't know if we're going to weld a tab in there or weld a bolt in there, but we'll get something. And then we got our other wire comes up through there, ties into that, pushes up and down on there. But we've been kind of stalled. We got stalled by this thing dying. The clutch mechanism, as you can see there, failed, and that's how you actually take the thing out. And we were trying to put on a new one to make it last, and it got up against some hot metal, and that hot metal decided it was going to cut through and put on quite the light show for us. So this is dead. Don't tell the Project Binky guys, because that'll make them very sad to see a grinder go into grinder heaven. So we got to get a new one of those. Hopefully our little clutch line there holds up and this actually all works and operates. The biggest thing we got to do is we got to get another down hose for this, because this is going to get into the way. So we got to pump, either get a 90 and get this up and out of here so we can have some room to operate, and even then I'm not in love with it. Or we got to cock this to the side down here somewhere, or maybe even run around to the back. I don't know. But we're going to have to do some experimenting with this, because it's not going to work in its current guise. So it's been a few days since last we spoke. It's dark out. So I'll show you what's going on. So we managed to get this bracket all lined perfectly where it needs to go. And like I said, the grinder died. And we haven't had a chance to get to the hazard fraud to get a new one. So this is all exactly where it needs to be. The rivets in there are holding it in place because the little tabs I had welded on there did not work out so well. So the rivets are now holding it in place. They didn't quite break cleanly, but what we're going to do is, because this is all where it needs to be, and with the way we bent this, so we cut panels, because I don't have a vise, I don't have a jig, I don't have anything. So we cut panels and we bent them, literally sticking it inside our piece of, this is literally our benders, our engine stand. So we'd stick stuff in there and pull and bend it using that. The pallet is a thing for a different day. Nothing exciting. So, unfortunately, it's not what you think it is. So this is going to get all welded into one big blob. So we're going to make it all welded up. We're not going to have any more room for adjustment. The one thing we do have to adjust left is we do have to figure out these holes here are not in quite right. So we kind of have to chip away at some of this. Probably just going to drill another hole here and another hole there. Probably one on both sides would probably give us the best bet. And we're going to try and take away more of this. But we're not going to do that till we have everything welded together. So fingers crossed. Can't cross everything. My welding skills don't suck. This is thinner metal than I'm good at. I'm used to just turning the thing up to as high as it'll go, tack welding it in place, and hoping for the best. So we'll see. Quite a bit more skookum than the old one. Lack of handle notwithstanding. The little bit here is a little bit better. I mean, you can tell they're definitely the same, you know, constructor. It's got a nicer switch. It's got a nicer little button here. Let me impress. This is a little bit beefier. Everything's just a little bit beefier on this. And for 11 bucks, that ain't bad. You can see here, this is the Ronnie Dickman's adapter. And it is mounted to the top of the shaft right here. And that is our selector. And then that goes down and it goes up. And all along, this thing stays attached right to it. It's not the prettiest thing on the planet, We will probably find a way, sorry, mosquitoes trying to eat me. We'll probably try and find a way to get this in here a little better, probably some goop just to help gum up the works. But this is hot, this is cold, so as this kind of contracts, hopefully everything will come together a little bit or come apart. Either way, we will see, and then we can put our plate in here, and all we got to do is get this, go down and up, which is the hardest part of this whole ordeal. All right, let's talk a brief bit of turkey when it comes to the car. So, this is obviously an 85 Fiero GT. We got it for $450. We got the transmission and the motor for 60 bucks. Parts, equipment, oil, stuff like that. You know, we're basically all in the car for, you know, if we're talking about oil and metal, I can't spell, oil, metal, miscellaneous stuff, we're probably looking at another 200 bucks all told. So we got 200 plus 50 plus 450, so that's 650 plus, we're looking at basically somewhere around 700, and let's, 700. So that's what we're looking at for a car. Ain't it pretty? I know, with the real ones right there. But, you know, you're looking at the old-fashioned adage is you can either have stuff that's cheap, you have stuff that's fast, you know, fast to build and whatnot, or you have stuff that is good. And if you ever played an RPG, you have that little triangle you draw. It kind of tells you, well, you know, which one are you going to do? The triangle you would make would look like this. You know, we'll just go from boop to there. We're just looking at cheap. Cheapest way to build this car possible. That's not to say we don't want it to be good. You know, good, question mark, we want it to be good. What we're looking at though is we have a time resource that we really don't have a lot of this because of personal life issues, you know, and buying and getting all the money and everything for that. So, what do we have left to do? Obviously, we're still trying to fix the transmission linkage. Again, my terrible handwriting. I'm a millennial, deal with it. Fluids, we gotta check fluids, oil, it's been changed. We wanna run the car a little bit, run it again, coolant line, stuff like that. Check for stupid, so kind of like just do a once over on everything mechanical in there, make sure it's all working well. Alternator is still charging too much, so we got to figure that out. So that might be a battery issue or that might be a charging issue. Tires, we got to get the tires, new tires, because these are all date coded out. And as you can see, that one is basically flat. But this is all kind of the big stuff that needs to be done. And then we need to, you know, check myself before I wreck myself. Before wreck. So check myself before I wreck myself. So that's kind of the most important thing to do. So what's going on with the transmission linkage about the market? We're still getting this bumping up against the we've been having is this is too thick right in here, and it is preventing the armature from going up and down as much as it should. Problem being is I don't really get a chance to work on the car this week without it basically being too late for me to really fire up the grinder without being that jackass that no one likes in the neighborhood. So we got to grind this down. Then we got to get that perfectly aligned with the armature, but that is just a matter of getting the sheet metal and a little bit of sheet metal right there that we're just going to use to act as the pivot point, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So we got to take this, we got to grind down on that, but I want to do it now because it's currently 9:49 at night and my battery's low. So that's going to have to wait. What we're able to do is we're able to get the fluid for the clutch all done. That's working. So I'm looking at this weird. So that's working, which is great. as long as it holds. So hopefully, so the clutch, the ball bearing is working the way it should. We're getting the clutch disengaging. We got to find some other bits and pieces and get it working. Where is, I'm looking on this thing. But yeah, so that's good. We're doing good with that. The issue is clutch, or not clutch, shift linkage. So clutch is working, so that works. Yeah. Some cover from our white trash neighbors in the form of fireworks to do a little bit of grinding on the controller here. So you really can't see what's going on down there. So we have everything. You see it goes all the way up. And you really can't demonstrate it with this, but it goes all the way down. So that's down and into position right there. So it works. So we know everything is in position. Now our issue is we got to find a way to support this down on this side because it's a little too flimsy. And we still have to move and adjust this a little bit more. So we're going to have to come, this needs to come down a little bit, and we need to get it a little bit angled further up. So when you put it together like this, it doesn't quite want to reach, even with all this play in here. So what we have to do is we have to, see, look, that's it right there, and that's a lot of tension. It will go, is this locked? Yeah. So it doesn't really want to move in either direction with this on here because it's in there and it's all cattywampus. So what we got to do is we got to pull out a little bit of this because it needs to be out a little bit anyway so we can get it centered. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of tape on here so we know that it needs to be out a little bit. And then we're going to move this down a little. And then we're probably going to have to use a little bit of plate here. I showed you before. Good thing to keep sheet metal around. So we're probably going to have to put this down here so we can drop this down a little bit and get this where it needs to go. But as far as that goes, the clutch working, this hole, you really can't see it down in there. That's our clutch out. That's our clutch in. Not quite the best way to do this, but it works. So we're going to leave that alone. We're going to put this. We already bled the whole system, so that works. So all we're going to do is put this down here, mess with this adjustment. And then we got to stiffen this up with some more metal, but we know the linkage works. So let me grab some tape. And why we got to pull out this a little bit. So this is here, right? So we want it to be able to go left a little bit, and we want it to be able to go right a little bit. So we need to find a new center for this. So we have enough room to go left and down or up, and then we have enough room for it to go right. So we want it to be right about there, because that gives us enough room to go over. So we got to do that. I'm trying to figure out another solution for this, but I really don't know one. So if you got any ideas, please let me know. And as you can see, it kind of comes out, so we kind of just got to grab it and do it on our own and figure out where, because it wants to return to the center, which is less than ideal. I don't know if you can see it through there now. And when we pull on the linkage that's on the bottom, we need to find a nice little happy spot for it. So that's the top one, the one that goes forward and backwards, has a square cut to it. And that's the one that's on the bottom. So that's about where we want it to sit. So we're gonna grab some tape and mark that up. As you see this, we're gonna support it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have time to film when I do it, so we're just going to do this. Also, I don't know when next I'll be able to film. So this is cut away. I see right there, that's enough leeway with the light on. It's kind of hard to see. But what we're going to do is we're going to chip away even a little bit more at that. We're not concerned about the structural integrity of this bar, because what we're going to do is we're going to run a slightly thicker bar. The plan is this little sheet metal is all that's really holding this thing in right now. This goes up against bar stock right here. So what we need to do is we need to run a piece of bar stock underneath there, strengthen that up, and then this is strengthened right here, so we got to run another bit of bar probably from here just to triangulate it. And then we're going to have to put my welding skills to the test and weld this in to a bit of bar stock. So this is nice and stiff. The issue we're having is there's a lot of flex down here. The other option is on this far side is running some, that'll be the more confounding part, is trying to get a bit of metal to go from here down and into a bolt or rivet on the chassis somewhere. So I'm thinking about doing that as well. So next you see that, I'll try and update you on that, but we don't know quite when we're going to get to that. We got to adjust where this goes. It needs to go down a little bit and out, so down and out, so it can be more in line basically with that, but further away. So we're going to play around with that as well. That's the plan. It's been a long time coming since we last did an episode, but that's it. So we'll see. Hopefully got a lot of updates going on with that. If you like what you watch and all that, you know, YouTube stuff, you know, this thing's been around for 10 plus years now, so you should know. Hopefully we'll take it and do some of that with it. Until then, have a good night, have a good evening, wherever you are, whatever time it is there. Hopefully not midnight. Thanks so much for watching. Au revoir, ciao, something like that. Bye. So we got this. We're gonna rivet here. We're gonna rivet here. This is just quick before we go. And then we managed to grind off what should get in the way or what's been getting in the way. And we're gonna hit this with some paint and then we're gonna be good to go. We gotta weld these two bits together right here, but that should make this a lot stronger. So that way we're not getting the flicks. And then we just gotta adjust this.